Guys, I am incredibly excited for this video release. I'm going to be honest, I'm recording this intro after the interview already took place, but today we have Angelo from We Want Picks, and today we are going to get to know him. It is more about, it's not necessarily your typical interview you would hear on just different MMA channels, talking about fights, talking about all those things. The goal with these videos is to get to know more about the creators behind the camera. And if you do, and I already know this intro is going to be a little bit in length, so if you don't want to hear me yet, timestamps will be there. You're more than welcome to skip. So I totally get that, but I've started, if you guys don't know, I have multiple YouTube channels, and on my other channel, I have one where it's gaming, Fortnite, and I have creators on to kind of do the same thing. So I wanted to begin the same thing over on this channel, where we get to know different MMA content creators, get to know different fighters. I would love to get into all of that, and Angelo's the first guest on over here, and it was an incredible conversation, everything that I hoped for. So, guys, if you are interested, and if for some reason, if you're watching this and you do not subscribe over to We Want Picks, links will be in the pinned comment description down below. You can go show them some love because I really, really enjoyed the conversation I had from Angelo. Thank you very much for listening to the long intro over here, everybody. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with too many YouTube channels. Let's get into the interview with Angelo. Angelo, thank you so much for coming.
No problem.
Can you introduce yourself, share a bit of your background, and what inspired you to start making content?
Oh boy. So the first question is like the broadest question. Okay. So I don't know where to start. So I have been a fight fan forever. I've been watching UFC since day one. The very first UFC ever. My cousin in New York had a D-Scrambler. So back in the day, when like the porn channels and the pay-per-view movies and stuff were all different rainbow colors, but the audio was great, but you just couldn't see it.
Oh,
they had a D-Scrambler. So we would de-scramble everything so we could watch everything. And I caught the first UFC and I was like 10 and loved it. Then we watched all of them and I've never missed an event, even in the late 90s-ish, mid to late 90s when UFC was banned. It wasn't allowed on pay-per-view. You had to buy the VHS tapes after the fact. Even then, we'd go to Sam Goody, we'd buy the VHS tapes, watch the fight. So I've been watching fights since day one, but I never consumed fight content before.
Really?
Nope, I never consumed fight content until COVID. So I've been watching fights forever. I then managed professional fighters, right? I started training. I've been wrestling my whole life. I was training, doing jiu-jitsu, met a whole bunch of professional fighters while doing that. A couple of them made it onto The Ultimate Fighter. And this is, we're talking early days, early 2000s. And they came back from The Ultimate Fighter and they're like, I need a manager. And I didn't know what I was. I just wasn't an idiot. Is basically it. Like I just wasn't stupid. So it's like, all right, I think you're the smartest guy in this gym. Can you help me out? So then I started getting people fights and sponsors and learning as I went. And then a couple of those guys did well and made some really good money, made some names for themselves.
Do you mind if I ask who?
A bunch of the most notable. So there's a difference between full-blown managing fighters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like full-blown handling their entire career versus getting people fights. So a couple of guys did well, then went down to American Top Team, did some things in Bellator. But then once word got out, like, oh, Angelo's not a scumbag. Like, you can trust Angelo. Then it was like random, I'm not going to say a lot of their names, but like big name guys that did well in the UFC before they were in the UFC. Can you get me a fight? Can you get me a fight? So I'm getting them like regional fights and random promotions. But the most notable is probably Nick Newell, the one-arm fighter. They did a whole movie about him. He was in a bunch of different promotions, fought Justin Gaethje. But he's the most notable just because, all the ESPN features and things like that. But I quickly realized there's no money in this. This is not, you can't, it's not a scalable thing. It's directly related to time. If you only have, if you're managing 50 fighters and you only have so many hours in the day, it is impossible to give everyone the attention they need. So I realized this is not a scalable thing. So I just continued to do it. And then as people's careers sort of went up and down, then I just wasn't getting anybody new.
I understand. Yeah. You answered so many questions just there. Cause I was going to ask you
right
I know.
Off the rip. You're like, tell me about your life. Like, I know I didn't know where to go with that.
That's so funny. Yeah. Cause I was going to ask about managing specifically. Cause I've heard you mention on the channel, but I didn't know too much about it. I was going to ask you if you had any background in MMA or when you started watching UFC. But that again, you answered
There
so
you
many
go.
so many
Check.
things over there. So after COVID, you started watching a lot of YouTube content.
So that was sort of my evolution as a fan, and then I got actually involved and met a lot of people and had some real close relationships at a very high level. But then I got married. I have 2 children. We moved to raise our children where we want to raise them. So, as the management stuff started to die down and just normal life started to pick up, then COVID hit. And like most UFC fans today, a lot of them found UFC during COVID. I didn't find UFC during COVID because I've been watching that since 1993. What I did find, though, is YouTube-based, content for MMA and for UFC. So obviously I consumed all of the UFC's content, but I never consumed anybody else's content around that space. And when UFC was the only sport back, I've been playing DraftKings Fantasy for UFC since it came out many, many years ago, like 2005, 2006. We Want Picks back then. I started it as a blog, a written blog for building DraftKings fantasy lineups for UFC. Then I had my daughter, and then that was the end of that. But so COVID, it was back, right? And Jacob lived here, and a bunch of my buddies and stuff like that. We were watching UFC, competing against each other, and it's just DraftKings fantasy private contests we do every week. And so then, these fight cards got bigger and bigger, and there's a bunch of people you've never heard of. And look at this ridiculous name. I don't know who this guy is. So you go to YouTube, and then I found Fight Night Picks, actually. And I would watch their breakdowns of those fighters and be like, yeah, I will put that guy in my lineup, or I won't. And then I was like, I could do this shit. So then I was like, Jacob, let's do this. So then we started doing YouTube breakdown content.
Wow, it's that easy, eh? I love that. It's interesting, though, if you've been watching UFC since day one, you've never consumed media outside the UFC?
I'm 40, so I'm not a go to YouTube as an entertainment kind of guy. I watch cable TV. Well, not cable. I have YouTube TV. I'm evolved, but I have like I watch a lot of TV. I still watch MTV's The Challenge on television. So like Jacob is the one who consumes content. He watches Twitch. He's been watching, since it was Justin.tv, and he uses YouTube as like 80 to 90% of his actual content consumption. So that was always his evolution, but not mine. I just never went there or thought of it as I would go to YouTube for how to, not just to be entertained.
Like OG YouTube, eh?
Yeah. Like, how do I fix this toilet?
That's funny. Yeah, I never really thought about that. I never thought about the age having anything to do with it, because I'm like Jacob. Like, I would even 95% of the stuff I consume is on YouTube. So, and I've been a fan since about 2012 of MMA, and ever since I started watching a lot of YouTube, I've been looking up MMA stuff. So that's really interesting. But I want to ask you if there was anything specifically, because I've been following your channel since well over a year. I think it's been about 2 years now.
Yeah, we haven't been around that long.
Yeah. I wanted to ask if there was one thing, because I didn't notice it personally. Was there one thing that made you guys gain a lot of traction? Was it one video, one streamer? Has it been more of a gradual rise?
It's not gradual in that our trajectory was crazy compared to most. I think we showed up at a great time. So the people that were doing the content before COVID all got an insane boost. So there's Fight Night Picks, a great example. Those guys are like consummate professionals, no bullshit, no nonsense. Like, those guys were great. I was watching them. I started watching them during COVID. And when I started watching them, they had like 15, 16, 17,000, 19,000 subscribers. And I'll never forget I think it was the end of 2021. They did or 2020, they did here's a recap of this past year. And I'll never forget, one of them said something like, we started this year with 1,000 subscribers, and now we have 19,000.
It's crazy.
So all of those COVID creators had that. They all had that giant shot to the top, because people exactly like me just discovered MMA YouTube.
Yep, absolutely.
The problem became for all of them that once life started to get back to normal, the the views go down because people are now who were watching YouTube constantly and we're working from home and we're watching UFC way more than they ever have before. Those people started to get back into their normal life and their normal routine, and they're not watching every video that people put out. So then YouTube started penalizing them. And I'm not saying this for them specifically, but just the people who got those giant 10, 20x spikes in subscribers during COVID have all slowly started to die. And that's because YouTube says, well, you have 50,000 subscribers. You have 20,000 subscribers. You have 15,000 subscribers. Why are you only getting 2,000 views or 10,000 views? So then YouTube stops pushing it. So we were very fortunate that we did not start during COVID because we would have had the same issues. We started after COVID once things were normal. So our growth was very authentic. It wasn't casual, like, oh, I'm going to watch it for a couple months. Like, it was very authentic. But I think what ended up happening is we were like the first people in this space that had a good time. Like,
that's important.
It's the reason we became who we are, because Fight Night Picks, unbelievably professional. Those guys are great. They do high quality shit. It's not the Tapology breakdowns. They use graphics, high quality content. So we took that, right? Good graphics, high quality, but then it is a couple of guys laughing, making fun of each other, saying horrible things to each other and having a good time. We were literally the very first people that did that in that space. Nobody else did that.
Yeah,
So
I don't
it was
think
just.
I think you're right. You must be the first, because I consume so much MMA content, man, and I haven't found anything like I love the live stream you do. It's one of my favorite things you guys do on the channel. I listen to it at work every Friday.
Our Tuesday night breakdowns.
Yeah. And I always listen to it. I love you guys roasting each other, man. It's funny. It's like informative content, what we love about MMA, and at the same time, it's just putting a nice twist to it.
Well, I think what helps is it's authentic. Because what's happening is now people, just like we took what Fight Night Picks did and added our own twist to it, people are trying to now for us, like our sort of space has grown 400x, meaning there was like 4 or 5 MMA YouTubers. Then we showed up. I think people saw the success. They hear the numbers that I say when I talk about premium members, and they say, oh, I can make money doing this. And then
your mic went out for a second.
There's no shortage of tables.
I see. Yeah, you're totally right about that.
I got a phone call. That's why.
Oh, that's okay. Everything good?
Yeah, I'm going do not disturb. There we go.
Okay. Anyways, so I want to ask you a little bit more about content. Do you think you found your place? And obviously, like, you have found your place, but I mean, do you still want to experiment with your content? Because I, for example, enjoy like fight foods. Do you want to keep doing more things like that, or do you think you found more of a space just in the betting scene?
Yeah, no, we're nowhere near level or steady or done at all. I don't know. Did you watch the UFC 303 Fight Foods came out yesterday?
No.
It's one of the single best pieces of content we've put out.
I love that.
And it was awesome. I mean, and what's crazy is I'm there filming all of it, and it feels like trash while you're filming it. It's like, what, another selfie video of Angelo's fucking fat, greasy face. And, you know, then I give it all to the editor, and out came like this. I've watched it 3 times. I'm like, this is awesome. So no, we're nowhere near done, because if people like us and our content for who we are as people, right? Obviously, the insight helps. We crushed UFC 303. It wasn't even close. We dominated UFC 303. It seemed like Twitter was a graveyard of missed bets and bad picks, and we did really well. So that obviously helps. But then you take that, and then somebody who came in to watch the picks and then had a good experience and then sees a Fight Foods and then is like, oh, Angelo's not just some like miserable prick from the Northeast. Then they'll go over to Jacob's live stream. Like, this is a very entertaining live. So the answer is 100% no, we're not done. We've got a million ideas for different pieces of content and how to grow and do things differently and just give regular viewers the best possible experience they could have, and give premium members, we've already accomplished this, but we're just never going to stop. Just the most insane value that you could ever get on the planet if you're looking to pay for that type stuff.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like, you guys have it all. You're totally right. You come for, well, at least in my experience, at least I found I watch a lot of just prediction videos. That's what I enjoy. I'm just a big fight fan. And I came across your channel, and then I end up enjoying you guys as people. And it must be the
plan.
Yeah, it must be the thing that so many people gravitate towards the channel for. So, do you ever see yourself making content outside of the MMA space? Are you going to expand that much?
I don't think people give a shit. Like, that's insanely hard to do. That's insanely hard to do. So we do 350,000 views a month, which is an astronomical number in the pick space, right? In
Absolutely.
the pick space, nobody's anywhere. It's not even close. And that's awesome. But if I got in my own, like, started feeling myself like, oh, I'm a star, I'm going to do a channel about whatever the hell. I am not going to be able to take those people and bring them over. So you asked me earlier how I ended up starting doing content. I started the UFC content after finding Fight Night Picks and doing all of that.
Okay.
During COVID, like everybody else, we're home. I've worked from home for 20 years, so that didn't change much for me. But we're home. I got myself a Kamado grill. You know what a Kamado grill is?
No, actually.
Like a big green egg, but I got the red one.
Oh, okay.
So then I started cooking on that, and I started consuming cooking content. How to make a brisket on a Kamado, how to whatever. And then I was like, let me film this. And I am a huge like tech guy. So I started filming it, and I got increasingly more comfortable and stuff like that, filming the cooking stuff. So that was actually my first ever like original YouTube content, was the cooking stuff.
Interesting.
And while I started doing that, that started to grow. And there's this guy, Smokin' Dad Barbecue. He started COVID-ish, and he blew up. I think he's well past 100,000.
When you said that name rings a bell, but I don't watch him personally.
Yeah, like a very soothing, like nice looking guy from Canada that cooks on Kamados.
Solid.
He reached out to me one day and said, "Hey, I'm just gonna start like this group with other content creators in this space, so we can just like give each other advice and stuff if you want in." I said, "Yeah, of course." And in that group, he said, I forget the exact way he worded it, but it was something to the effect of, every niche can be successful on YouTube, but nobody can be successful on YouTube covering every niche.
Oh, yeah.
And it's true. If my channel was just like, it's the Angelo channel, what's going to happen is, some people are here for this piece. Some people are here for that piece. Not everybody is there for the same thing, and that gets wonky. So your question, would I get outside of the picks and start doing other content? That would be an insane amount of work, and I don't know if the payoff would ever be there. I also don't even know what it would be about, but I don't know if the payoff would ever be there.
No, I get that. You're totally right. Especially like it'd be a big issue if you're doing it on this channel. I was more so asking if you wanted to like expand, like make another channel for other content. Maybe you have another interest. Like, hey, what about like cooking with? Reach out if you ever get that much of influence. Reach out to Alexander Volkanovski. Have a cooking stream.
Oh, what's funny? I do see those videos, and I'm like, damn, good job. That is sweet. But that's what the Fight Foods vlogs started as. The Fight Foods vlogs were, I have people that come over, usually the same crew of like anywhere from 5 to 8 people, depending on the week, come over to watch fights, and I cook them. I cook them something, and this was long before the vlog existed. I'm cooking whatever the hell. Like, that was the excitement. For me on fight day was, what am I going to make? Whatever. So then I was like, I should film this. And that's how the vlogs started, was cook centric, like the actual cooking part. And then the fights were sort of secondary. And then now it's just more of, here's our day and everything we're doing.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's funny how a bunch of creators evolve in that sense. Everybody, there's so many people who find success in something that they didn't expect. Yeah. And then they roll with it. And there's nothing wrong with that, of course. Right.
Well, and it takes a lot of self-confidence and a lot of trial and error, and not afraid to look like an idiot to do it. And like, that's the part I struggle with. Like, somebody commented, and actually my neighbor was making fun of me. Why? But somebody commented on the UFC 303 Fight Foods vlogs, which I cannot believe you haven't watched, but do your homework. What a joke. But somebody I'm just teasing, by the way. Somebody commented, you like, I'll say it again. Angelo is unbelievable at vlogging. And I responded authentically where I was like, thank you very much. I am wildly insecure while filming these. So thank you. And then my neighbor screenshot that and sent it to me. And he's just like, pussy. And I'm like, dude, I'm serious. Like, I was like, I'm walking around casinos, like selfie videoing. I'm like, it's embarrassing. Like, it is embarrassing. And I'm very self-conscious. And it's like, it's a big hurdle to get over.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't have that in me, meaning if I was like, if I was Jacob running around in that ridiculous outfit, like, and I just didn't care what anybody else thought of me, those vlogs would be 100 times better. They'd be so much better, but I do care and I don't want to look like an idiot. So it's all very like discreet.
Honestly, good on you. Cause you don't give off that impression at all.
I'm not self-conscious. Like I've competed in combat sports forever. I'm very confident in myself and my abilities and what I can and can't do. I'm self-conscious in looking like an idiot in public.
I get that. I understood what you meant, because especially with everybody doing like TikTok dances in public nowadays, people just like look like, oh,
they don't give
idiot.
a shit. They're like, and everybody's just standing like,
yeah,
they don't care at all. I need that level of not care.
Yeah, I would be completely comfortable recording like in public or something, but I don't know about like walking around being like, hey guys, you know. That would be a little bit more difficult.
Especially we're in a weird time now where like content creation is a thing that people do, but it's also shameful. It's still shameful watching somebody like, we're here at it's like, dude, don't be a dork. This is like, put the phone down and be where your feet are.
I've seen this one time in real life. I don't know about you, but the people who go to a restaurant and with just by themselves and their phone's there and they're talking to their phone, like reviewing the food at the restaurant. I've seen that once in real life and I'm like, man, how do you do that?
Dude, so I've never seen that in real life, but I watch that content. Like, you know, that'll hit there's this dude, Dre from Dallas, that does that. He's great. He's entertaining, ton of fun. But if I saw it in real life and I didn't know who the person was, my gut reaction is, what a fucking nerd. Like, that is my gut. So I guess I'm just projecting that onto myself because I'm like, when people see me, they're like, what a fucking nerd. And it's like, that's the problem.
Yeah, the thing is, like, it's not I don't know if it's an understandable reaction, but we're in that transition period. Like, I think it may be 5-10 years down the road, that won't be a really reaction anymore.
100%. I 100% agree with you. Like, it's still, what's so funny is, so yesterday, the Fight Foods vlogs, I film it all. I don't have editing skills. So I pay somebody to edit just the vlogs and like that Conor McGregor video he edited. I pay somebody. He's a guy who watches the show and he's in our Discord, and I was like, I need an editor, and he's like, I'll do it. And so I pay him to edit it.
I love that.
So what's really cool about the Fight Food vlogs is I filmed them. I know what I filmed. I know where I was. I know how I experienced it, but I don't know what this final product is going to look like. I give him some notes like this could be cool, that could be cool, but I have no clue. So I sent it to him, and then it takes a few days, and I watched it yesterday alone, like not with my kids. And then I was watching it again, and the kids were watching, and my kids are 7 and 5, and they're sitting there and they're watching it with me. And they're like, Dad, is this on YouTube? And I was like, yes. On our YouTube, because I don't let them watch real YouTube. They can watch YouTube Kids.
I see.
And I was like, no, not. It's only a grown-up YouTube. Are you a YouTuber? Like,
oh no!
Like the glow in their eyes. Like, that's what Meanwhile, my wife like runs an ER and saves lives. And like, are you a YouTuber? It's like, mommy saves people's lives. I call my redheaded friend a ginger on camera. We are not the same. Be proud of mommy.
It's fascinating to me, like how the difference with that, because you're right. Like, especially kids, they would look up to that way more than they would anybody in the ER.
Oh yeah, they don't give a shit.
It's insane.
And even I had this similar. So We Want Picks is not just Jacob and I. It's me, Jacob, and this guy Josh, who built Premium, runs the website, like the unsung hero. Like, you know, he's a behind the scenes guy that without him, a lot of this shit just falls apart. And him and I were talking, and I was in Vegas for UFC 303. The amount of people that came up to me was astonishing. It blew my mind. Like when you watch the vlog, every time I'm filming with a non-fighter, and I'm like, who do you think wins? That is like a We Want Picks fan or premium member that was like, Angelo, and then came over. And I was like, hey, who do you think?
That's awesome.
And not even, there was about 15 of them that I didn't film because it was at the arena, and like it's too late to ask who's going to win the main event at that point.
Yeah.
But I was talking to him about it. I was like, dude, it's crazy to me. I'm like, it's crazy to me how many people came up. And I was like, Jens Pulver was like right there. And 2 people came up to me, can I get a picture? And not Jens Pulver. But that dude is, if you haven't been watching UFC since day one, you don't know who he is necessarily, unless you watch the YouTube, Twitch and streams, and maybe they missed him, whatever. But I was like, that's a crazy, that's just crazy. And then Josh was like, dude, nobody, like, obviously people care about the fighters and the current fighters and the big name and stuff like that. He's like, but more people in that space would know who you are and would care about that. And he was like, that's just like where we are, because there's another, I'm not gonna say a name, but there's another like very famous, at least to me, because I'm an old school MMA fan, a famous fighter that does content and stuff like that. And I know him, like we have a relationship. Like I know him in real life. We haven't done a crossover or anything yet, because we're just trying to figure out, the best way to do it and not, whatever. And to me, he's like, wow, like this guy, the things he's done, all that stuff. And Josh is like, I'm telling you right now, more people now know you than him. Positive. I was like, I don't think so. But, it's just interesting to see that evolution of kids and younger people care more about YouTube and those people than some of the actual human beings that we're covering.
It's interesting. How'd that make you feel, like when you finally started like noticing that so many people have been coming up to you and stuff like that?
It was it was awesome. It's like validating in that, this space is tough, dude. Like some of the comments are fucking nuts. Like we have a great weekend. We're heroes, and they're just miserable losers hiding in the shadows that can't say something mean because we had a good weekend. And then we have a bad weekend, and all those miserable trolls that haven't seen sunlight in months pop out like loser, fade, dork. Like what? They can't wait to attack. So it's a weird space, but it was nice. It was nice in person. Like Angelo, love what you guys do. Like it was just really nice. And does it matter to me? Not really. Like if somebody came up or didn't come up, it doesn't really matter. But it is it's great. It's amazing. It's great. It's very validating. Like, all right, there are normal, because 80% of the people that came up have never commented, they're just people that watch. There was one person who I recognized. Nope, everybody was unbelievably nice. Okay. But there was one person who I knew the name, and I was like, this guy's a fucking asshole on YouTube. He's like, oh, what's up, man? I'm like, this guy's, and I didn't say anything because it's like, like it was cool for sure. And at one point we were in the arena sitting in our seats. The arena is 90% empty because the Jacobs Lock of the Week was the very first fight. So we were there for the first fight. Nobody watches the first fight. So it was like us, a couple of people, like an entire section over, and then like some guy behind us. And in that fight, Jacobs' underdog lock of the week was Vinicius Oliveira. Vinicius Oliveira is beating Ricky Simone. And then that kick lands and his shin, something happens where he's limping. It's hard to tell in the arena, but I assume it just hurt. Yeah. And he's limping. And somebody yells out. Oh, not anybody, nobody we've interacted with, somebody just yells out from an entire section over, lock of the week fading. And I was like, holy shit, dude. So we go over there after the fight, and I was, we say hi and like do whatever. And then, so that was insane. And then as I'm walking back up the stairs, some guy comes over. Hey, can I get a picture? Then some woman comes over. An attractive female comes over. Hey, my boyfriend watches you guys all the time. Can I get a picture? And I sat down and I was like, I wish Tiffany was here so that she could see, and maybe she'll be nicer to me at home.
Hey, you know what? And it's only gonna get even better in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, and like we can't lose sight of the fact that this is literally, if anybody was ever going to recognize ever, this is the only place. You know what I mean? Like these are, it's not like these aren't grocery store recognition. Like this is literally every single person there is there for a fight, watches fights, all that. So, it's.
But it is a significant space still.
Oh, it's 100%.
Yeah.
But if I'm walking down the street and then MMA Guru and his fucking beautiful locks are right next to me, it's a very different crowd.
Yeah. Yeah, especially those two channels, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, I want to ask you a little bit more about your martial arts background, because of course I know you've competed to some extent. I know you have a wrestling background. If you want to tell us about that.
I've just, I started wrestling later than most, because I'm from Connecticut, and I started wrestling in Connecticut at an interesting time. So before the private clubs started, but after wrestling was an actual genuine sport that every school had. So I started wrestling in high school, which is late. Nowadays, it's insanely late. Back then, that was sort of the normal time to start. Some people who started in middle school were just like world beaters, right? So I started a little late, but picked it up fast. I'm a big guy, so I'm competing against sometimes slobs and sometimes athletes, but I was competing at 215. So at 215 with some athleticism, you're going to have success whether you know how to wrestle or not.
Yep.
So then, then I started to learn how to wrestle, had some success, and then, everything's over and life is starting. And this guy that I used to wrestle with, Big Bill, call him Big Bill. Like I say 6'3", it's like 6'2". He's like 6'6", the biggest human being I had known in real life at the time. All-American wrestler, football player, all that stuff. And so him and I were hanging out. He started doing jiu-jitsu. He's like, come with me. So then I started to do jiu-jitsu, and this is like my early 20s. And so we started, I'm not going to say the guy's name because he was arrested for being a pedophile.
Oh, no.
We started at this guy's gym in New York. We were there for a couple of months. Then we're training in Connecticut, and my coach was Luigi Mondelli. And he started, the agreement was basically like, if we can use the wrestling room, because I was coaching at the time, if we can use the wrestling room, you can come train for free.
Oh, that's nice.
And I didn't make that agreement, but somebody else did. So we would train, and it would be in the wrestling room at the high school. And so then I started training just jujitsu and just use my wrestling and stuff like that. And then Glover moved to Connecticut, and Glover knew, I believe, Luigi. I forget how they knew each other, but they knew each other. So then Glover started training with us. And this is long before he was Glover,
That's incredible.
But he was good early. Like Glover could shoot a takedown from 200 yards away, barely get his fingertips near your legs, and then still suck it in and pick you up and run with it. So they just started training, but then like on and off, like life would show up and I wouldn't train for 8 months. And then I would have time again and whatever. Then you'd get a girlfriend and don't train. And then, so it was on and off forever. But I've been training since 2002. I've got my blue belt certificate from 2004. I'm still a blue belt. I'm still a blue belt. 20 years since I got that thing, and I'm still a blue belt. And that's because A, the inconsistencies, and B, back then, you did not get promoted unless you wore the bathrobe, and I refused. To wear a gi. I wasn't doing it. It was just a much more pure jiu-jitsu as a martial art environment before a lot of the no gi stuff really started to take off.
I get that. Yeah, so sorry about that. Go ahead.
No. So then, that was it. Just training forever, competed in a bunch of random nagas and tournaments and things like that. But, that was never, it's to not be fat and to get like that, just crave to push something around out of my system.
Yeah, the not get fat thing, I understand, because very, very long story short, we had the gym that I went to shut down in 2020 with COVID, and then it was opening, closing. So I haven't gone, and I've always ate just whatever I wanted. So now that I haven't been training, I've just been sitting and gaining weight. It's crazy.
You have a kid or anything? A wife?
Yeah, I just had my first daughter a couple months ago.
Oh, congratulations. Well,
Yeah,
there goes this
much.
Channel. Good luck making content with a baby.
Oh my God, my wife's fantastic with it though. She's upstairs with the baby right now. She's incredible. I can still work on this.
Good.
So,
good for you.
Thank you. Yeah, things definitely get busier though.
Oh, I know.
So It's totally okay. This is one of the things that I wasn't sure if it was a touchy subject to bring up, right? So if you don't want to answer it, just we'll continue moving forward. Are you comfortable sharing what you were doing before YouTube? I know you were managing fighters, but you said you were working from home, like what you were
I've
doing.
always had a real career. The managing of the fighters. I've always had a very real career. I work in telecom. I've worked in telecom forever. So
Okay.
I've always had an actual career. This is not this. If I was Jacob, this could be Jacob's only career. You know what I mean? Like single, no kids. Like this could be his only career. It could be mine if I didn't have an entire family to support and things like that. But no, I'm a very conservative guy in like, and I'm not politically speaking or anything like that, but conservative in that, you know, I'm not going to take wild risks. People see that in how I bet, but also how I live. Like I'm not going to quit my job and be like, I'm going to make it on YouTube because this could go away like that.
Yeah, no, that's
instantly could disappear.
That's a completely respectable take. I'm exactly the same way. I'm at the point now where I run another channel that's been doing way better than this one.
Don't you have like 30 channels?
I'm trying to touch a bunch of different spaces, but I have 2 right now that are doing well.
What's the other one that's doing really well?
It's on gaming.
Oh, gotcha.
And I've been starting to do
gaming or covering gaming stuff.
Covering gaming, and I started doing. This is the idea that actually you're the first person, so thank you very much to come on this channel. But I started interviewing different gaming creators, having them come on, doing podcasts, stuff like that. So I'm at the point where I'm sitting down. And I'm like, okay, I can, but I know I'm the same way as you. I'll never risk it, especially now just having a daughter.
You can't, dude. People are so full of shit. Chase your dream. They're just so full of shit. Like, no, don't. Like, make it work in the world you have. And like, listen, maybe one day this is everything that we do. Maybe I sell this company for a giant bag, and like maybe. But I would be a lunatic, a selfish, doesn't care about his family lunatic. If I was like, if I went to Vegas and all those people came up to me like, Angelo, can I get a picture? And I came home like, I made it. We're F the real job. Who cares about health insurance? Tiff, you got us covered. I'm doing this now. I'd be the most selfish, irresponsible idiot in the world. Don't do it. Listen, chase your dreams, but do it the way I do it. Waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, just grinding.
I do the exact same thing. That's crazy. Yeah, that's honestly completely respectable, and I share the same viewpoint as you. It's just like I'm at the point where I'm like, the urge is there, but I'll never act on it. You know,
crazy. It's crazy to do.
So,
and like financially, if I did it right now, I maybe if I sat down, I might be able to make it work. But it's just not. No. Too many responsibilities.
You're absolutely right with that. So this is actually a good segue into the next topic I have over here. For the MMA scene in general, there's a lot of people that are trying to get into it. Do you have any advice for people starting a MMA YouTube channel or YouTube in general?
I don't know, man. I'm not, because I consumed a whole shitload of like how to grow your channel and the 5 best tips for new. It's all bullshit. It's all like just work hard and be consistent. And I think that's genuinely. All I can do is speak to how we did well, and we did well by working hard, being consistent, and being ourselves, and like being different. If you're trying to start an MMA YouTube channel and you're just going to pull up Tapology in the background, that space is just too crowded. Yeah. Like, I don't know what's different about you than the next person that would have someone gravitate towards you, right? Yeah. Ultimately, in picks and stuff like that, if you're right, you know, if you pick a perfect card every week and all you did was list the names in 5 seconds, you'll grow. Yeah. But like, you know, there's that window of opportunity closed in the last couple of years when there's 5,000 channels out there. So our biggest thing was just being ourselves and consistent. Like people know, and there's random times where we'll stream on a Monday instead of a Tuesday, something. But people know what they're going to get, when they're going to get it, and how often.
Yeah,
but even us, here's a good example. I mentioned we do about 350,000 views a month. We right now are almost 26,000 subscribers. Even when I upload a new piece of content that isn't something people are used to absorbing, the views are trash. Yeah. You have to like teach people. The Fight Foods vlogs are the most expensive, most labor-intensive video I do. And like the UFC 303 one will be the best one we've ever put up, like view wise. It's gonna get like 5,000 views.
Oh yeah, that's the problem with it, eh? And I don't know if you guys have experienced this,
Are you
but
Canadian?
yes.
I gotta
Oh,
go.
that a lot, is that what I'm
I
saying?
gotta go. No, just kidding.
Yeah, I never noticed how much I'm assuming it's because I said A in one of my
Yeah,
sentences. I don't even notice it.
aggressively.
I don't even notice it, but it's not. It hasn't been until I started doing content where people are ask me that after I'm like, oh, I said A, didn't I? So I don't know if you guys have experienced the same thing, but there have been so many times where I upload something just because it wasn't a good idea. It was easy to make. That's the thing that goes viral, and the thing that you put the most work into just doesn't hit.
We don't experiment too much with content, so I haven't had the good side of that. Like I haven't had the, like, just throw it up and see what happens. Because we are very like this, and this, and then we'll introduce something new and whatever. But I have 100%. I mean, Fight Foods it's a grind, man, because
Oh yeah.
I need that to be bigger. I don't know why, but I need that to be bigger
I
because
mean,
I want people to see that other side, like beyond the whole, did you pick the fight right or not?
yeah, absolutely, 100%. So, continuing on the kind of content scene, what are your thoughts on the MMA content scene in general? There's a lot of people in the space.
I think so we mentioned before that it sort of blew up. It was not a big space. It was a pretty small space. And then during COVID, everybody blew up.
Yeah.
Everybody blew up during COVID. But I mentioned earlier, what happened to a lot of those channels, not all of them, what happened to a lot of them, though, is you brought in all these, people say casuals. Like, I'm not saying it in the comment section sense, but just casual fans as in like, yeah, during COVID, I watched UFC all the time, and now life is busy. I don't watch it as much. So a lot of those channels started to suffer because the views went down as life got back to normal. And then YouTube punished them, basically, because, hey, your views are down. It must not be good. A few of them survived. So where the content space is now is interesting because most of those pre-COVID content creators, a lot of them are still around, but they're not growing and they're struggling to evolve and bring in new people. MMA Guru was a COVID guy, but he clearly is not suffering from that piece. Right?
He had a huge boost.
He blew up because he's basically live 24/7. Like he is live 7 days a week, and that is literally how he blew up because he was a perfect storm of he was the first person to not be a monotone dude. He was the first person to be live constantly. And the timing of it was spectacular for him because that's when YouTube was really trying to get into the live space. So they pushed the shit out of him.
And he was pretty much, as far as I know, like the only one going live all the time.
100%. And
Yeah.
it was before we ever existed, 100%.
Yeah, I found him when I used to work nights in an OR. And when I was like, part of the job was grabbing supplies, getting ready for surgery and all that. And I would always listen to the Guru because he'd be live at night at that time, just talking about MMA. And he was just himself, which is really cool.
Yeah. Well, and he's the first person that really brought some personality to any of it. So he is blowing up. He's evolved because, like, I believe there's a character there, right? Like the angry and stuff like that is a bit of the shock jock aspect of it. But also he can be very normal.
He describes it as an exaggerated version of himself.
Yeah. And that makes sense because some clips he's like very normal, he's funny, whatever. And then he'll do like John Jones is gay. So it's like, which actually like, I expected that video to just be a rant, but it really wasn't. He had like,
I know.
It was blown up, but he like, had like, I don't want to say facts because I think it's still like ridiculous to do, but like there was effort put into that.
You can describe it as somebody didn't know the Guru. They could come in, watch that video and be like, huh? Because it made sense.
So where I'm going with all of this is people I hear that kid. People, good luck. You're going to get yelled at when this is over. Anyway, so where I was going with that is, so now you have him dominating the MMA content in general space. We Want Picks dominates the pick space, only very specifically the pick space. And you have people emulating both. You have a million channels trying to do what we do. Full card breakdown, best bets. If you pull up TubeBuddy and look at 90% of the, I haven't checked here, we'll see. 90% of the tags, We Want Picks is in a lot of these people's tags.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
that
like
makes sense. That makes
just like
sense.
Fight Night picks used to be, and now it is whatever. That's how you think. Whatever, no big deal.
Yeah.
So you have people emulating that. So now the YouTube space is almost split between pick content and because people saw our success and they're looking to emulate that. And then the just entertainment aspect because people see MMA Guru's success and they're trying to emulate that.
Yeah.
But what's happening is people are trying to figure out how to stand out from the crowd. So you get extremes, like wild clickbait craziness, and then you get like, same on the pick side. So it's sort of all over the place. But I think it's turning into a bubble, and eventually people will, a lot of people will be like, well, this isn't worth my time, and it'll shrink down to some key people that put in the time, put in the effort, have some actual quality content, and that'll stick around the long term.
Yeah, it's funny because UFC is becoming so mainstream now too. The clickbait is really, really starting to infiltrate.
And it's hard to not do it. I've seen, actually, my Conor McGregor bet video was my version of clickbait, and it wasn't even clickbait. It said I bet $1,000 on this fight, which I did. Like it wasn't even clickbait, but it was my version of clickbait.
It's not really clickbait if it's accurate, If you put $1,000 on Conor McGregor, then I don't consider.
Well,
that
I didn't.
clickbait.
I put it on Michael Chandler, but we put Conor in the thumbnail. But it's hard not to do the clickbait. Like part of me wants to. I want to build out a whole section in my office where I do those Chael Sonnen hot take style videos. So that's probably the next piece of content we're going to start to add.
I actually feel like you'd be good at that.
Stuff does well.
I actually feel like you'd be really good at that, the Chael style content. Get the chair, get some decorations.
It's basically what my fight recap videos are, but shorter, like one topic.
Yeah, I get that. So what do you do in your free time when you aren't creating content?
Yeah, I don't know what free time is, but for the most part, I have a family. I've got 2 little girls, and I'm very, I'm very Italian. And so I'm very family and friends oriented. If it was up to me, my house would just be a parade of people all the time, always. But Tiffany runs this ship, and that's not how she operates. But free time. I do MMA content in some capacity or another 7 days a week, no matter what. Whether it's making the graphics, whether it's doing whatever. When I'm not, I'm with the family and swimming and doing stuff with the kids, or like, Friday night dinners with the neighbors and things like that. But if you, like you said, Angelo, what's a perfect day? A perfect day for me, not doing the content stuff, would be basically the last Fight Foods vlogs for UFC 302. Drinking, playing yard games, throwing a Frisbee around, talking a bunch of shit and hanging out. Like that's a perfect day for me. And that's like a legit window into, Angelo, what do you want to do in your free time? That's the window into what I want to do in my free time.
That's
Hang
awesome.
out with friends and family and play yard games.
Yeah, honestly, I share a lot of that with you. So I like that. I like that. What about for YouTube in general? Do you have any ideas of like well, obviously like you want to get as big as possible, but do you have any specific goals with the channel? And do you guys ever see yourself calling it quits in the future?
We could definitely call it quits. And that's a luxury we have because I haven't made it that whole don't quit your job to chase your dreams. That's nonsense because then you can't quit your dream. No, I don't. We don't have any plans on quitting anytime soon, obviously. And I don't think we will, but, the plans are just to continue to evolve and continue to grow. The last thing, like it's all very exciting because all we have seen is up, 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 up. That's all we've ever seen with premium memberships. That's all we've ever seen with views. That's all we've ever seen with feedback. That's all we've seen so far. But we're only 3 years into this. So once it starts to level and come down, then I don't know. But the goal is to just keep evolving, keep getting bigger, keep getting better, grow beyond this, turn into something bigger than this, and go from there.
That's awesome. So we're almost done over here. I have everything that I want to ask you, but there's a couple things besides one that's not really that weird, but there's a couple specific things that I'm interested in hearing. So first off, how did you meet Jacob?
So Jacob and I are friends in real life, and we've been friends in real life long before We Want Picks YouTube channel. I've done a lot of moving the last couple of years, or not the last 10, if you will. I met my wife in Connecticut.
Okay.
We got together. She's like, it's too cold. We got to move. We moved to Florida. So in the neighborhood we moved in Florida, Jacob lived across the street. Like our driveways backed up to each other.
Okay.
And so I would just see him hand washing his Mazda Miata. And I was like, that's a gay man. Like, that's a gay man across the street. Like, oh, okay.
Oh my God! Actually, you're ringing a bell. Have you told us in a stream before or something? This story sounds.
He's very
familiar.
open about having a Mazda Miata. And
Okay,
he
well,
talks
never
to
mind.
Callum. We saw Callum, Tabitha Ricci's boyfriend, the boxer, at. We saw him at UFC 303, and Jacob was literally talking to him about a Mazda Miata. So
Okay.
I would literally see him out the window washing the car, and he had a big black lab that would he's had one of those like plastic bathtubs that the dog would just like splash around in. And so I basically met him walking my dog. And then we just started chatting. You watch UFC, and he's like, I know who Conor McGregor is. So then he came over to watch fights, and then we just became good friends.
That's nice.
then he moved-
That easy, eh?
When I moved to Texas, he came out and visited, and he was like, yeah, this place is sweet. I'm going to move here too. So that's how we ended up in Texas. Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, so a pretty easy relationship. Two people like UFC. And now look what it's become.
It's been about 10 years because my oldest is 7. She's 7. Yeah, she's 7. And I knew Jacob before she was born. So, yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. I love that. So I'm going to let you go shortly. And this is something that I've always worried about when watching your videos. I got to ask you, do you ever worry about the food that people send you? Somebody who just had a bad bet, somebody that went crazy. Sure. Because all it takes is for one bad call, like to just have somebody hate you forever. I would put it past people. And I'm like,
so if you remember during COVID, I don't know if you're a Barstool guy, but during COVID, Portnoy was doing mail openings.
Okay.
And they blew up. He would go live on Instagram, like in the peak COVID, opening up packages from all over the world. And he would get food. And he would just fucking eat cookies that were in like a plastic plate. Like crazy. He would eat it. And then he was like, I can't eat the food anymore. My mother called me screaming at me. So I have that in my head. People send us, we get a lot of letters, which I always read on the vlogs. We get like really thoughtful gifts and things like that. And we do get food because I'm fat and people know it. What I haven't gotten yet is like a baked good. I would not eat that. If you sent me food on I'm not eating it. What we do get is like sealed sauces and things of that nature. I've tried them all, but like, they're sealed and I Google them to make sure it's a real company. Okay. And like, there's a wrap and like some of the packages come directly from Amazon. So that one I can trust. So.
That's true. I even worry about like even anything like super sealed like that. It would be in the back of my mind personally.
Yeah, no, people are nuts. A few years ago, somebody sent us their like homebrew, some sort of sauce. I forget what it was. And I was like, nah, I'm not.
Just replace it with something.
You just tighten the lid. Really we're good here.
Yeah. So okay, that makes more sense if you're checking it. I think about that every time I see it, which is funny. So again, almost letting you go. Finally, do you have? And I know you've had experience with like fighters in your real life. Besides those people, do you have any favorite fighters, or do you have any favorite fights of all time that you go back to?
I've been watching this since day one. So my favorite fighters are like Vitor Belfort, Tito Ortiz before he became an Instagram meme. Like those people are my favorite fighters because that's who I've been watching since this all started. Modern favorite fighters, you gotta love people like Kevin Holland and now people like Diego Lopez who they're just gonna show up and they're just gonna show up and they're gonna be there. But it's definitely the old school guys. Like years of Cowboy Cerrone was one of those guys. It turns out that guy's a prick. He big dogged us. He's a prick.
What do you mean?
So we went to UFC 303. Jacob bought VIP tickets. The VIP tickets get you a whole bunch of different things. One of those is after the weigh-ins, you have a 2-hour cocktail, 2-hour cocktail hour, I guess, a reception where fighters come and go and they hang out.
Okay.
And then same thing for during the fights from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. So 7 hours. It's the same thing, an open bar sort of reception where fighters come and go, stuff like that. Mark Coleman came. Freaking Brandon Moreno was there. Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Chris Weidman, like big people that were, Jan Blachowicz was there just hanging out. And Donald Cerrone shows up, walks past everybody, grabs food, and then just goes into the corner that's roped off so that they can just be by themselves.
Okay.
Never came back out. Didn't talk to a single
Interesting.
human being. Didn't take a single picture. Nothing. And it's like, what a fucking dude. Like, why'd you come? Like, what a joke.
You know, he kind of gives off that vibe. I've always loved watching him fight. Really, like, and he was so underappreciated as a fighter because people nowadays just see him getting beat up. But I that doesn't surprise me personally.
Yeah, he's the only, like, that was just I was just like, fuck this guy, dude. Like, who do you think you, like, what a joke. Like, why'd you come? Like, why'd you, if you're in the lobby of a hotel and I go up to you, which I would never do, then I get.
Yeah.
But like, you came to this as somebody who was supposed to come to this and interact with people and then didn't. And that was annoying. But
yeah,
no, for the most part, fighters are cool. My favorites are all the old school. BJ Penn is one of my all-time favorites. The old school people.
Yeah. Did you have ever have any really, really standout good experiences with any fighters?
I've had a bunch of really good experiences with fighters as a manager.
Yeah.
And like in that setting, in a locker room, stuff like that.
I get
but
that.
as like just this past weekend, Kyle Barallo couldn't be a cooler dude. That dude is awesome. That dude was just sweet. Like, shot us a DM after, like, hey, if, I'm happy to come on the show. Like, Kyle Barallo, sweet. Could not have been a better experience. Brandon Moreno, I get a video with Brandon Moreno. Like, we're just there hanging out. We found out right then and there that Diego Lopez has a new opponent for the co-main event. And I asked him, I said, hey, we just found this out. He's like, what? And he's like, he's so animated in the face. And he like didn't know how to process the information. Like, that was a really cool experience.
I can see that.
90% of the fighters are normal people and just have some etiquette. Like, on Friday, weigh-in day, and even then again on Saturday, fight day, we stayed at the New York. That's where 90% of the fighters were staying, and they're like in the elevator and they're walking around. And it's just like, don't just say good luck if you're going to say anything, but just let this dude's cutting weight. Do not go bother him. So like, I could see how other people can interpret like head down, don't make eye contact, walking around looking miserable as like a poor experience, but context matters. And I've the only bad experience I've had with a fighter in an inappropriate context was Donald Cerrone being a prick this past week.
I mean, if it's just one guy, that's a good thing, right?
It's not terrible. Yeah.
But anyways, Angelo, I've kept you for an hour. Lastly, do you have any closing remarks? Anything you'd like to share? Why people should sign up to Premium 3.0? The floor is yours.
I think people get enough premium pitches from me. I'm not
go on for 7 minutes if you like.
I'm not going to bombard your channel with a premium pitch. Anybody who's watching this because they saw my fat face has heard that pitch 200 times. No, just thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Good luck to you and your channel and everything that you do.
Oh, thank you.
There's enough room in this space for everybody. So to me, just have fun making your content and enjoy, and I appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate you coming, especially because I know you're a pretty busy guy too, so it means a lot. Thank you very much. And for anybody watching this, we want pics. All the links will be in the description. Pin comment down below if anybody would like to see it. Angelo, thank you very, very much for coming.
No, thanks for having me.
And like I said at the beginning of this video, guys, that was a fantastic interview. I really enjoyed the conversation. It was really cool getting to know the guy because I share quite a bit of the same thoughts on, you get the point. We've agreed on different things and like just the way of life. I love how family oriented he is. And especially the entire conversation about like, I was opening up just a little bit. I didn't want to make it about me or anything of something to the extent of like, I'm having thoughts right now where with YouTube, I'm kind of wanted to just do this full time. And he kind of shares the same values in that sense, care about your family, care about your kids. And I really like him. I really respect him. I've been a UFC fan for a very long time, fight fan. So I really enjoy Angelo from We Want Picks. I watch his breakdowns. Like I said, the live streams I typically listen to at work on Friday. So it was really cool to get to talk to him. And Angelo, for whatever reason, I don't know why you'd be watching this because you were part of the interview, but if you happen to be watching again, I appreciate you coming. It was an honor. Thank you very much for the great conversation, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. Typically, I'd have a video related to that, but this is the first interview on the channel, but there's going to be more to come. We already have another one planned, so stay tuned for that, guys. But check out this video on screen right now. YouTube thinks you will like this video the best out of everything on the channel. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Take care.